Okay, so you guys, I'm going to start this again. I'm recording this from my camera instead of Facebook Live. So here we go, and hopefully I won't have any audio issues. Now I'm getting sun coming. But I wanted something that's been on my heart for the past few days, and I even experienced something yesterday, is the term, concept, forgiveness. And my daughter and son, Cam, Kayla, I have them reading this book again. We read this in our homeschool program in 2020, and they are reading this book now over the holiday break. And I usually will ask my children, what did you read? What did you get out of that? Because it's one thing for them to tell you, yeah, I read it. You're like, okay, that was like 2 seconds ago. And so I make sure that I ask them, what did you read? What did you get from it? And Cameron said, people cause their suffering. I said, okay, wow. That after entering a profession, I've trained as a nurse for over 20 years. I've been in the healthcare industry. And that's one thing I've noticed is that people would come through the hospital with physical conditions, but there would be emotional issues. Often people confided in me about experiences they had as a child. And over the years, I would see and I would start, reading things on healing your body, on emotional trauma, and the whole concept of you are what you think and bringing that about. And I would see over and over again, even in my own life, even in my children's life, family, non-family, that often these emotion and feelings such as anger, betrayal, confusion, resentment, vengeance are often at the root of our physical conditions, migraines, stomach issues, that even there's research that point to emotional trauma and a link to physical conditions. So often, of course, if you've seen me, I've talked about diabetes, I've talked about heart disease, liver, but yet still, as a nurse, I felt like I was just skimming the surface, right? That underneath all of that are often things we have not dealt with. And my mom would also, there were a few things my mom would tell us, several principles. One of them being, you don't have to do anything to anybody. That there is a faithful God, there's a just God. Whether you believe in God or not, you call it karma, but there's something just in the universe. That we don't have to do anything to anybody. We don't have to degrade ourselves with foul language. We don't have to degrade ourselves with hurting our body, with overeating. Often we looked for food, including I've had my weight loss journey history. Look for food to be our comforter. Look for outside things to be our comforter and to help us. And when we no matter how much external we take in, it will never solve the issue within. Right? It will never solve that heart issue. It will never take back the pain, the frustration, the betrayal that you felt from a coach, from a mother, a father, a grandfather, grandmother, from a friend, an aunt, an uncle, um, cousins. It will never take that. And I've had my own experiences. If you don't know my story, I had a childhood experience where I had expectations of how someone should treat me. And instead of that, I experienced some confusion, some betrayal, and after that, just really trying to search who was I? What am I good at? What am I here for? Right? As any person who's been through a traumatic experience, you're looking for who are you because of this? Why did this happen? Who are you? And so I took on my mother's dream of being a nurse. Let's just say that my father was not in alignment with her becoming a nurse. And there were some issues there, some issues that led us across the country from Memphis to Illinois, right? Or up to Illinois. And so nursing opened up a door for me, not only in character, not only in who I wanted to be, of course, character, not only learning about the body and its ability to recover, to heal, how it functions and its wiring, learning about the nervous system, learning about the blood supply, learning about the functions of all our organs. But I also saw that many people were suffering, right? They were suffering, again, like from what somebody did to them. And this conversation is not about letting people just out of it, not holding them accountable for it, right? But knowing that we cannot change people. That's the thing. We cannot change people, that even though they're supposed to, whoever you have expectations of what people are supposed to do, right? That we can say, our parents are supposed to love us and guide us and direct us and show us how to live. I thought that, and my mom has played a very significant role in helping me to transcend a lot of my experiences by the principles that she taught us. And one of them is, you can't change people, that you have to be more concerned about your heart. So I'm not trying to take responsibility from those that hurt me or hurt you. They are still responsible for their actions, right? In every situation, we have a choice. But you too, just like me, because what I say to you, I say to myself, you have a choice. And that now that has happened. Now someone has betrayed you, whether it's a long-time friend, a family member. How will you live the rest of your life? Because there are, it's not about getting religious or regarding my sayings or being about religion. To me, it's about searching for the truth. And it's about honoring our body, our mind, and our spirit. So it's not about not holding people accountable, but how long will you hold someone accountable? How long will you hold a grudge over something that happened maybe days, hours, weeks, or years ago? Because I do believe that chronic stress, and if you haven't read on it, feel free. Chronic stress, you guys, is so damaging to our health. Those hormones that are released in the fight or flight response mechanism of your body, it's a wonderful body, but that chronic heart rate, anxiety, that chronic mood of depression, that chronic release of cortisol, that affects how our cells work in our body. And just think, if you're constantly on the move, if your body is just going, eventually it's going to slow down and it's going to give out. Just like your pancreas, when you're taking in food, large amounts of food, your pancreas is producing this insulin and other enzymes to help break down triglycerides, those fatty acids that really make your blood sticky and increases your risk for blood clots. It's not functioning. Your pancreas is not going to continue to function at that high rate. Why do you think people have issues with their heart after years of having panic attacks, anxiety attacks? That because whatever was done has probably ended, or if you're in something that you need to address, that we don't need to continue to hurt ourselves on the inside. And so this year it's all about you. It's all about living your best life, not just taking back who you are, your innocence, your beauty, restoring yourself to its natural state. We don't have to go and look for love and food, love in food or love in people, because within us is the love, within us is the compassion, within us is the ability to forgive, within us is the ability to understand that your pain is not about me. It's about something that you need to deal with. And when we say that, when we point the pain back to the person, We're holding them accountable and say, these are my terms. This is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is what I have to stand for to preserve who I am. Because I know if I continue to be angry at you, if I continue to be resentful and vengeful towards you, I'm going to continue to do myself harm. And you may say, well, no, I'm going to hurt them. Well, you've already hurt yourself because you've held on to this stuff. And hatred and anger is energy, just like love. And the more you think about something, the more you increase the ability of you becoming that person that projected their pain on you. And now you're ready to project your pain back on them or on someone else. Doesn't have to be in the same way. And no one said that when you forgive people that you have to be all in their face or they have to be all in your face. You can set the standards. For instance, I don't really talk to my father because I felt like for so many years I've done without him. That God has helped our family, that has given us the basic things that we needed. So it doesn't mean, yes, I forgive you, but it doesn't mean I have to talk to you every day. Doesn't mean I have to send you birthday gifts. Doesn't mean I have to attend celebrations, weddings, or whatever it may be. You make those decisions. And when you make those decisions, you say, I want to be at peace with this. And this is what I need to be at peace. And when we say, well, I can't forgive whoever it is that did something to you, what we're really saying is I won't forgive what you did to me. And what we're also really saying is that, and hear me, we are saying that we want to continue with whatever is slowly destroying our body. The anger, I think there's a Bible verse that says anger rotten the bones. And the thing is that I believe even though God reigns on the just and the unjust, that it does say the prayer of a righteous person availeth much. The prayer of a righteous person availeth much. And so it's not about saying these Bible verses and getting them out there. It's about really just honoring that truth within me, that I feel like that without forgiveness, where would I be? And I'm going to share with you two stories. One of them was before my son's best friend came. Since kindergarten, he's known this girl, and her family came out and visited us. But before they did that, I think it was like a weekend before, it was in August. My family and I, Carl, myself, the kids, we went to Lowe's in the city to go get some mulch. And so we're driving back, getting ready to enter the forest and past the last exit before getting into the forest, right? The gas station, etc., getting off on another city, getting something to eat. And so I'm looking up at the sky, how beautiful it is, and I hear a pop. I knew automatically that was my tire, that we had a blown tire. And my husband knew. We tried to, explain it to our kids. He's turned around, trying to go back up. We rode on it a little bit, start smoking. We're like, okay, we need to do something. So we call Progressive. We called our insurance. And I don't know if you know, and I don't know if it's the same way where you guys stay, but they basically said they were coming out to get our car, right? My car. And they left a message, or somehow I found out that they said you need to be out of the vehicle. Of course, we know that, but that you need to get your own transportation. And we're thinking to ourselves, okay, we're in the middle, almost getting ready to go through the forest. Like we're like probably, less than a mile away before we would have no phone service. And so we decided to go ahead and walk. Okay, I didn't have a spare tire. So that's a lesson. And we had a flashlight, we had some water, we had some KFC that we had just gotten, God knows. And we started walking, Carl ahead of us, the kids and I behind. Cam is like flashing the light on every little thing that he sees, And There are cars that pass us, not a whole lot. It was late at night, dark, and we noticed that a couple of vehicles started coming down and slowing down. Well, what I found out was that in one of the vehicles was a 20 some odd year old boy or man, sorry, 20 early 20s, 23, 22. His color is white. They are not English was their secondary language, and he was in the car with his grandparents. And in the other vehicle was some of the other family members, and they had just came from the coast, right? So another over an hour away. And so he's like thinking, seeing us, and he's like, oh, they must be walking to their home. And he's like, wait a minute, there are no houses along here. Well, there are houses, but they're deep in the forest. I mean, like deep, like deep in the forest. And so, and there's some along the way as you travel, but we were away from majority of the houses. And they get out, and by this time my husband was behind, stopped walking. Kayla and I'm like, let's walk, let's keep walking. I'm praying to God, because you hear all these stories about people go missing, and you think people are nice and then they're not nice. And so they're like, hey, you guys need a ride. And my husband's like, yeah, he's coming all close to the car. And I'm like, please, like praying, literally, you guys, praying. And all these thoughts are going through my head. And I'm like, God, protect us. And you know what we need. And so Carl, after the conversation, Carl goes, he's like, Carl, go ahead, and he trusts them. He's like, we're going to get in. So they opened the door, and there was a little bit of, I felt a little better when I saw that it was older people in the car, his grandfather and grandmother. But then I got in the back seat, and I'm up here thinking like, but older people can do stuff too. So all these thoughts are going through my mind. And while they're going through my mind, my kids are sitting on the side of us, our kids, and I'm like, wait a minute, they're scared. And you over here in your own little world, get out of that. And I used to say, it doesn't matter about the color of your skin, and, thinking, believing that there are good people in the world. And I had to kind of jump out of it. And as we're riding along and we get to the gas station, the last exit before you go through the forest, there's like the gas station is totally closed. Like we had been there before. They have a restroom, food, etc. They're closed. And there are vehicles, white truck and some other vehicles just parked there. And we're like, okay, yeah, we're not staying here. And the guy's like, we're not going to leave you guys here. Where do you want to go? And so they offered to take us to a hotel. So he's calling a 20-some-year-old. And I'm sorry, before he even called, while we were still riding up to the gas station, he started talking about God and how God is using him and how he wants to do good. And so, of course, my anxiety level is going further. It's going down, further down, because I'm like, okay. And so just there was so much care in talking about us. He called the hotels when they were expensive. He was like, how much is going to cost? If they said 200, he was like, nope, no, thank you, bye. And I was like, okay. And so Carl looked up a hotel. He had me to call them. And wow, the person that answered the phone, his name what was or is Demetrius. His name was Demetrius. And then I knew that was the hotel for us. They told us the price, decent price. And they took us to the hotel. And all along, he's like, how far is this? And looking at it, looking at directions, a 20-some-year-old. And so he was more concerned about us than you could ever imagine. And before we get out of the vehicle, the grandmother says that God used us to help you guys. That it was God in that action, in those actions. And if you were in the predicament that we were, and I'm sure you've had it, we're literally in the dark, 2 adults, 2 kids, and we're walking. And when she said that, I just thought, wow. We get out of the hotel, trying to get inside. It was quiet. Quiet. They had food, relaxation. Everybody was nice. And it was really nice. Wonderful. Said nice. I won't say nice again. But and so just to let you know, when Cam's friend, her family came and to visit us, that I told her about the hotel because it was so nice. But when she told me that, she said there were people outside the hotel, motorcycles, etc. And I said, wow, isn't that interesting? Because that night there was no one, no noise, it was peaceful and quiet. God knows what you need even before you even know it. And so another incident that happened, and earlier in the day I had heard some news, and I was kind of taken back just a little bit. I was kind of surprised. But then yesterday we went grocery shopping. It snowed, as you see my pictures on snow. We went grocery shopping and did a few errands. When we came back, there's a little hill to go up, right, into where we stay, in the complex, in the community. And Carl goes up. I'm going to do it this way. He goes up and gets to a certain point, and we start sliding down. He's like, I have no control of the car. And so it's a two-way, right, street, two-way, and it's narrow. On one side is the grass on the right, and a little hill up. On the other side is a railing, and on the flip side of that is a creek, a long drop. And so he's trying to control the car, and he gets it turned around. Didn't take long. Gets it turned around all the way around. We head back. He said, I'm going to try it again. And I was thinking there was, tires, and then there's a space, and then there's tires. And I'm like, if he could just get over that, thinking to myself, well, we should be good. Well, he tries it, and here's we're coming down with the right lane. Here's the left. He starts driving, and then all of a sudden he starts sliding again. But instead of sliding down, we start sliding to the side. So now we're in the middle of the road, right? And so cars, if they came down, they would be trying to stop. And Kayla was in the back seat, passenger, and I was in the front seat. So we would have felt the impact. And I'm not here to think negative. What I'm here to point out is that it was a blessing that no one came either way, because now we're facing the creek, the drop off point. And as he was turning, the sliding wants to keep going towards the rail. And I'm praying, encouraging our kids to pray, trying to, staying calm, no loud voices, because we already know we're not trying to go there. And so I'm praying silently, just praying and thanking you as we move. And finally he gets turned around. We go and get chains for the car because we're like, okay, it's not going to happen. And so we go get chains for the car, and we go to a couple places, found out one place only had a 60 size chain for, for a car. That tire was 60. Carl's is 50. And so we left and went somewhere else, called around, I think one more time. And he decided to go back and at least get that and try that. Well, we're going home. You can't go more than 30 miles an hour. We're about 15 minutes away from home. And so you can hear the, so not even sure, we're at first like, that don't sound right. But he's like, they're on, he checked it like 3 times, like 2 times in the city. And then I'm thanking God for each, step we make, each wheel, at each gravel of the road, every little mark, I'm thanking him for as far as we've come. I've done that before many times. And so, we get home, and there's a slow sign out right before you go up the hill. Mind you, I did call too once I realized, once we were out of that situation where we're sideways, covering both sides of the street, I called because I'm like, okay, they don't de-ice out here. This is our first real snow. And I called because I'm thinking we got out of that. I don't want anybody go through that, because the thing you think is that if somebody else goes through that, it may not turn out like it did for us, right? Especially when there were kids in the complex. And so before we get up the hill, Carl goes out and check the tires just to make sure everything's okay, the chain is in alignment. As we're going up, we see 2 vehicles, right? One in the right lane, one in the left lane. And there's a small little gap. We're not even sure we can get past it. And we're not sure if we're going to be able to go up it. And they had, the complex did open up another back way to the place, but we didn't know what street that was on. We've seen that back direction from this way, but we don't know what street to go on. And we had the chains on. We said we're going to try it. Well, as we get up, we're realizing these vehicles have 4-wheel drive. And so they're stuck. And as car goes up, he rolls down the window and he said to this guy that's on the phone, I'll as when we get up, after we get up, I'll send the chains back down. And he's like, we already got a tow truck on the way. I don't know. Carl says they may have been in an accident. I think they may have been in an accident. And these are vehicles with 4-wheel drive. So we get past this little work. One car is here, one car is here, and we're going in between them. We get past and it gets us up. And Carl said he still felt the sliding. But for me, I felt us really kind of grabbing the road and getting up there. And then one of the things that Carl said to me when we got home, call our neighbor and tell her husband that how icy the roads are and what happened. So I told her everything, not even thinking about what happened between me and her earlier. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was just interesting. And so the thing that I say is that I believe that the prayer of a pure heart, the prayer that is less of vengeance and shame and guilt, that we're all working towards that, right? Including myself. I believe that our prayers are really heard in those times and that we can move mountains when we make sure our heart is clear of clutter. And so when people say that forgiveness is not about the other person, it's about you, I truly believe it. Given the medical knowledge, given that you have the nervous system that innervates every area of your body, every cell, that the messages we take in, the messages we tell ourselves are the messages that our eyes, our heart, our pancreas, our liver, our joints. When you talk about arthritis, you talk about pain in your joints, you talk about headaches. I believe that all those messages, we program our body, that there is a cellular change. And how would you feel if somebody constantly told you something negative over and over again, reminded you of what you did over and over again, right? And no matter what we do, no matter how much blaming, no matter how much projecting, no matter how much labeling we do, we will never undo what was done. And so forgiveness is forgiving yourself, for trusting, because there's nothing wrong with trusting people. There's nothing wrong. And let me make sure that's clear. There's nothing wrong with trusting. It is natural for us to trust people. But when we put people before the truth, and again, I would say even put people before God. When we put people before the truth, when we put all of our marbles in you're supposed to do this. God tells us, do not just trust in man alone. You are to trust in him. And so when people show you where they're at in life, you have to make the choice. I've made the choice to say, okay, either I'm going to go or I'm going to stay. And if I stay, this is what the terms are. Or as a person, you show people who you are. You show people the standards that you live by. And for me, it's not about, again, degrading myself. It's not about me feeling like I have to. And I've said some words. I've said my piece. But then you get to a point and say, is it really worth it? Because out of the heart, the mouth speaks. And if you're speaking if your words are full of anger, then that heart is full of anger. And that heart will not continue to function to its effectiveness if it's so clouded and hardened with anger. Again, this year, 2022, is about taking your life back. It is about restoring yourself to your rightful self. Compassion, love, forgiveness, understanding, truth. You have all of that inside of you. Nothing external, money, fame, food, clothes, whatever it may be, will fill you up. Whatever you need is inside of you. And it's about aligning ourselves with the spirit within. That don't waste your life on something somebody has already done. Build your life, create your life on your terms, create your life that will bring the joy and peace and love that you deserve. And your health will follow.